Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Maurice Brown NFL Edition show, brought to you by MAGNOS Dentistry out of Belo Horizonte, Brazil. Americans travel to Brazil more often than ever now to save on healthcare. And MAGNOS Dentistry is the place to go if you need a trip facilitated to Brazil. Contact me, Maurice Brown, at 703-357-6675 or contact Maurice Brown Comedy Hour at gmail.com. Or you can contact my wife, Eleanor Brown, at gmail.com. We're also on kchftv.org. We're talking the NFL today, and there's a lot of things going on in the NFL right now. A lot of surprise winners in the NFL, which we really would not have expected. But the real question is, who's for real in the NFL right now? You know, all the teams that we expect to be dominant aren't. And the Chiefs, the Bills, the Ravens, we thought they were going to be dominant, but they're not. Are the Patriots for real, though? The New England Patriots are 8-2 with Drake May as their quarterback, looking like, dare I say it, Tom Brady. I mean, the guy's balling. And Mike Vrabel has the Patriots playing like they used to with Bill Belichick. And you have to seriously consider, you look around the NFL and you go, well, I don't know. I mean, have they played the Chiefs yet? Have they played the Bills yet? They have played the Bills. Oh, by the way, and they lost, and they won the ball game. Have they played the Ravens yet? Have they played the Eagles? Have they played some of the big dogs? The question is, who are the big dogs, honestly? I think you have to give the Patriots respect now. I think it's time to put respect on the Patriots' name. There's nobody out there. I can't. We're going to talk more about that a little bit later. But there's really nobody out there right now. There's every reason to believe that New England, at this point of the year, can go deep into the playoffs and perhaps make a Super Bowl run. There's a lot of football to be played. We don't want to get carried away because I really think as we get closer to the playoffs, and certainly by the time we get into the playoffs, we're really going to find out who belongs and who doesn't. You know, I just have to believe that the teams we expected to be at the top will find their way back to the top when it's all said and done. But right now, it's got to be the Patriots because I don't see anybody out there right now playing as consistent as the Patriots are. They've got a heck of a running game. They've got a very good defense, and they've got a quarterback who arguably is top 3 in the NFL. If you look at his QBR, you look at yards per game that he's been throwing, touchdown to interception ratio is insane. I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think he's got like 20 TDs and 2 picks on the year. I don't know what the numbers are exactly for Drake May. The only thing I do know is he's balling. And so you just look at the Patriots and you just kind of say, man, wow, I don't want to say this. I'm having difficulty saying this out of my mouth, but they're really good. You know, I think the proof is in the pudding. 8-2, and they do have the Buffalo Bills as a team on their resume that they've defeated, that we expected to be big dogs. They're not looking like it. And last week they went down to Tampa Bay and beat Baker Mayfield and the Bucs. And I'm like, yeah, I think they're passing the eye test. And it's going to be a whole lot of fun to see what happens next as we get deeper into the season. But for my money, I'm going to say that the New England Patriots are for real. And the next big question is, and a lot of people had these guys as big dogs to start the year off with. Everybody said they were a Super Bowl lock, and they're my team, the Green Bay Packers. Let's talk about Green Bay. Let's talk about the Green Bay Packers and Jordan Love. I want to throw Matt LaFleur in here, and I will in a moment. But let's just take a look at the Packers and Jordan Love specifically. Jordan Love was expected to be the next great thing in Green Bay behind Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. Jordan Love is only the third starting quarterback in Green Bay over the last 30 years. I think we go back to 1992 when Brett Favre assumed the starting quarterback position at QB1. Let's see, 92, 02, 12, 22. We're in 2025. That's 33 years. They've only had three quarterbacks. Bart Starr, going back to 1967, won his first Super Bowl at 27. Brett Favre in 1996 won his first Super Bowl at 27. Aaron Rodgers won his first Super Bowl in 2010 at 27. Guess how old Jordan Love is? 27. And people are saying, oh yeah, it's just karma. Well, it doesn't look like karma to me, but I'm gonna defend Jordan Love a little bit here. If you go back and look at Brett Favre, he's like MJ on the football field. Aaron Rodgers, same thing. Jordan Love, a good quarterback. He's an above average quarterback, but he's not an MJ kind of player. He needs help from the sideline from Matt LaFleur. And he's not getting that right now. You look at Brett Favre, Mike Holmgren, you could argue, built Brett Favre. And then his transgenerational talent took over from there. Aaron Rodgers came ready for success when he arrived in Green Bay. At the time, it was Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy did not make Aaron Rodgers. Okay. Mike McCarthy had nothing to do with the greatness of Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers learned from Brett Favre a little bit. He took what he could from the quarterback room, and then his greatness took over, and the rest is history. I would argue out of the three quarterbacks, Aaron's the best, including Barstar. But Jordan Love is not that kind of guy. He needs help from Matt LaFleur, who continues to me to hyperventilate every time they get in a tough spot. And that feeds off to the young quarterback who's still learning and he's still progressing. The Green Bay Packers are the youngest team in the NFL and arguably with the most talent in the NFL. But youth can hold you back. And the Packers are still growing as a football team. So we're expecting them to do all these great things, but they're still trying to figure it out. At the end of the day, they should be winning more than they're winning right now. And that's on Matt LaFleur. He hyperventilates, he gets nervous, and Jordan Love is not benefiting from that. Now, they're 5-3-1. Do they have an opportunity to get things right? They do, because the league pretty much sucks right now. I mean, there's nobody out there really that you go as that's a definitive championship football team right there. You can't point at any team in the NFL right now with any real authority and say, yeah, they're going to win the championship. They are head and shoulders above the crowd. Now, I mentioned the Patriots, but no, I'm not going to say that about New England, although they are playing probably better football than anybody in the league. They're not head and shoulders above the crowd. So that gives the Packers a caveat in trying to figure out what they need to do. Matt LaFleur's response today at the podium was, I have to look inward. That's great if you're smoking a peace pipe as an Indian on top of a mountain. I need for you to do a better job, Matt. Okay? And I'm, as a Packer fan, we want that. Should Matt LaFleur lose his job? No, I don't think he should. I like Matt LaFleur. I think he's a good dude. But you can't continue to have the massive number of penalties that they have. The special teams are a wreck. The offensive line is a wreck. And the play calling is unpredictable. I mean, in the middle of the game on Monday night, the Eagles players on defense were calling the play that Green Bay was going to run. So now you're predictable. If the Eagles know that, the rest of the league knows that. So it's on Matt LaFleur. Okay, it's on him. They're 5-3-1, and they have a chance to right the ship, but they better get to righting fast. I'll tell you right now, they're going to go to New York over the weekend and play the Giants, And they are a team that could very easily beat Green Bay the way that they play. Now, their defense has shown up. I mean, Micah Parsons and the Green Bay Packers defense has played stellar football, and they should have won. The Packers should have won more games than they have. The only bad game the defense has played this year was against the Cowboys in Dallas, and you got to give Micah Parsons a little bit of space on that one because it was probably an emotional return, okay? And he was probably nervous, probably couldn't focus in the way he needed to, and the defense fed. I think you watched that game, and I think the nerves were flowing, and the defense fed off the nerves coming off Micah. And the Cowboys hung a 40 burger on them. They tied the ball game, but there's no way in the world. You play that game 10 times, and there's no way the Packers lose to the Cowboys. Although the Cowboys do have a pretty good offense, I'm going to give Dak Prescott and their offense some respect. They're pretty good. They can't stop a nosebleed. That's their problem, and not mine. But that's it. That's, in a nutshell, my take on Green Bay and Jordan Love. Don't waste this young man's talent, Matt LaFleur. Get this guy going. Again, he's not Brett Favre, and he's not Aaron Rodgers. He's not that kind of dude. People have put that kind of pressure on him. He's not that kind of guy. People like Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers come along, every blue moon, once in a lifetime. Guys like that, they're once in a lifetime type guys. And Jordan Love is just simply not that. But he's a good quarterback, and he's growing. He's above average, and he needs help from the sideline. And that is on Matt LaFleur. So after saying all of that, who's the best team in the NFL right now? Okay. By the way, you're watching the Maurice Brown Show, brought to you by MAGNOS Dentistry out of Belo Horizonte, Brazil. Americans travel to South America on a regular basis to save on healthcare, and Brazil is the best way to save on your dental needs. Big time. If you want to get down there, Maurice Brown Show can facilitate a trip to Belo Horizonte, Brazil. That's in the state of Minas Gerais. And they bring the Maurice Brown Show to you, the NFL edition. Now, who's the best team in the NFL? I don't know. I mean, I just gave you a bunch of names. And I honestly, to be totally honest with you, I cannot tell you who the best team in the NFL is. I mean, you've got teams like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are at 6-3, the Philadelphia Eagles, who are at 7-2. They just beat the Packers on Monday night. But can we beat 100? They didn't look like world beaters. They won the ball game, but they didn't look like they were the best team in the NFL. They were just playing a team that can't get out of the way of its own self. So you look at that. Then there's the Bills. What happened to Buffalo? I don't know what happened. They just lost the Dolphins, for goodness sakes. And they lost the Patriots early in the year, although we know that New England's pretty good. The Chiefs, they lose to the Buffalo Bills 2 weeks ago after we thought they were world beaters. The Chargers, can't really trust them. They're up and down. The Lions, they lost to the Vikings a couple of weeks ago. We thought they were the new big dogs. The big dogs not. The 49ers. They look really dominant sometimes, but they got handled by the LA Rams. And everybody's talking about, hey, maybe Mac Jones is our new guy. Can we just stop that? You're paying Brock Purdy $42 million a year, and they both play on the same level. That's not a debate, but I can't trust the 49ers. The Rams, as I said, can't really trust them. The Seahawks look really good. But do you remember what Sam Darnold did last year after going 14-2 and then got the playoffs, and he choked? So I don't trust Sam Darnold at the end of the day. The Baltimore Ravens were supposed to be a lock for the Super Bowl. Right now they're fighting for their playoff lives. And so you don't know. And before Lamar Jackson went out, they were kind of stumbling around. And then when he did go out, they fell flat on their face. They got one win out of the last 4 weeks, and now Lamar's back. They're on a 2-game winning streak, and they look like they might be coming back. The Packers, I just spent ad infinitum time talking about Green Bay, and they're not who we thought they were at this point. The Patriots, they're 8-2. I don't know if they're like the best team in the NFL. Well, no, I think they are the best team probably in the NFL. Do I think they're a lock for the Super Bowl? No. Do I think they are head and shoulders above the rest of the league? I do not, but they are playing the best football right now in the NFL. Then the Broncos. I mean, they had a real yawner against the Raiders, arguably the worst team in the NFL. They barely beat them 10-7 in Denver. And Bo Nix is like a guy that, I think if anybody stops Denver from winning it all, it'll be Bo Nix. The only thing that covers him is their defense. Their defense is outstanding. And he's got a lot of weapons around him on offense. He's got a great coach, a Hall of Fame coach in Sean Payton. But I don't know about Denver. So you just kind of look at that and you go, I don't know. I don't know what we're dealing with. So let's try to break this down by looking at the Power Five. Let's look at the AFC and look at the top 5 teams in that conference to try to get a better bearing on how the NFL is looking right now. By the way, you're also watching KCHFTV.org out of Albuquerque, New Mexico. We air every Sunday night at 9 p.m. Mountain Time. Let's look at the AFC Power Five. So I got the New England Patriots sitting there at number 1, followed by the Indianapolis Colts, led by Danny Dimes. He's better known and should be known as Daniel Jones. Let's get rid of the Danny Dimes stuff. The Denver Broncos, the Chargers, and the Buffalo Bills. So I looked at the Colts, and then you remember the 5 or 6 turnover game that Daniel Jones is personally responsible for 2 weeks ago against the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have a horrible defense. But if you hand them the ball and say you can have it if you want it, I don't remember the name of that commercial they did back in the 80s. I don't know if it was Mikey and the Life cereal. I don't know. But that's what Daniel Jones did. He said, you can have it if you want it. You want my Snicker bar? Anyway, that being said, games like that scare you if you're a Colt fan because you remember what Daniel Jones did when he was in New York. And that's the one thing that could possibly hold them back because the MVP is not Daniel Jones. It's Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor is the most valuable player in pro football today. Everybody wants to talk about quarterbacks. What about Baker Mayfield? What about Drake May? What about Daniel Jones? Yada, yada. No. It's Jonathan Taylor. You take Jonathan Taylor off that team, and they might win 3 games. One of them that they won that they should not have won was early in the year when Denver gave them the ball game, when they supposedly jumped on another player's back to attempt to block a kick. And they gave him another shot, and the Colts won the ball game. So I don't trust the Colts, but they're 8-2. I can't put the Chiefs there. I can't put the Ravens there. I can't put Buffalo there because of the way they're playing football right now. That's who we thought would be dominating the AFC, if not the NFL right now. They are not. So I got the Colts there. They deserve to be there. They're 8-2. Denver, 8-2. You look at Broncos, and you go, well, I mean, yeah, they're 8-2, but I mean, do we really believe in them? Do we really believe in Bo Nix? The only thing about Denver that I believe in is their defense. Again, outstanding. Keeps them in every game. And Bo Nix has been able to do just enough to get them wins. They were down by 28 points against the Giants 3-4 weeks ago and came back and won in the fourth quarter and ended up winning 33-28. Something asinine like that. But why did it take so long to get going? In other words, that was probably a lucky win. And you were playing the Giants, for goodness sakes. Then this past Thursday, last Thursday, they were playing the LA Raiders at home and barely won. One of the ugliest games I think you'll see Bo Nix play or any quarterback play. They were booing Bo Nix. The Denver faithful were. and they won it 10-7. So they don't totally pass the eye test, but they're 8-2. And they've got a big game this weekend. We're really going to find out the tail of the tape in this one when they play the Kansas City Chiefs. We'll talk more about that one a little bit later. At number 4, I've got the LA Chargers. And the Chargers, they're just up and down. They look a lot like the Chargers always do. You predict that they're going to go to the Super Bowl and they end up missing the playoffs, or they lose their first round playoff game. You know, they've got all the bells and whistles in Justin Herbert. They've got all the bells and whistles with Jim Harbaugh. They've got a pretty good defense. They've got offensive parts. And then they lose games that make you scratch your head. Like, how did you lose that game? How did you lose again? Why are you struggling with that poor team? Now they're 7-3. So we have to give them a little bit of respect because their record's pretty darn good. But when you watch them play, they don't pass the eye test. And you just kind of go, I don't know. Again, any given Sunday is really the theme of this conversation that we're having, me and you right now. It's an any given Sunday kind of season. Like anybody can win each week. Pete Rozelle, the commissioner of the NFL, going back to the 70s, envisioned a league of parity. He got it. It's almost like everybody's even, more or less. I mean, there are good teams, and then there are teams that just suck, and they're not going to win anything. You still have that. They're holding true to their image. They suck. But there's a lot of teams that are pretty good, but there's no one out there that's outstanding. And speaking of the bad teams, they can rise up and win and have been doing so at those times when you figure there's no way in the world they could beat this team. And they find a way to do it, i.e. the Dolphins last week over the Bills, i.e. the Panthers over Green Bay at Lambeau, i.e. the Browns over the Packers, i.e. the Vikings over the Lions in Detroit, and I can go on and on and on about teams that we thought were going to be great and world beaters, and they haven't shown that. The Eagles have lost a couple of games. You figure that there's no way in the world that they should have lost. And the Commanders have completely disappeared. A lot of people, including myself, felt like the Commanders were going to go to the Super Bowl. Now they've had a lot of injuries, but again, the year's not turning out the way that you would have expected or thought it might have before they kicked it off. Now, Buffalo comes in at number 5. And I have to put Buffalo here because they're at 6-3, and the other 6-3 teams, they really don't pass the eye test. You look at the Steelers, and they're sitting up there at 6-3. Do we believe in Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers? Not really. And then the other, they're 6-3. Those are the only other 6-3 teams. I mean, the Steelers are actually 5-4. And no, we definitely don't believe in them. You've got a lot of 5-4 teams out there, and the Baltimore Ravens don't even fit into that group as they're at 4-5. But that's my AFC top 5, which is not what we thought it would be. If you told me before the season started that the Colts and the Patriots would be at the top of the AFC, I would have laughed at you and asked you to be drug tested. But they are at the top. In the NFC, I've got the Philadelphia Eagles at number 1 because they are 7-2. They haven't really looked that good, but they're 7-2, and they're the Eagles, and they're the defending champions. They deserve to be number 1. I have the Seahawks at 7-2, following the Eagles, who are playing. I mean, they're murdering people. The Seahawks are just skull dragging people. But I always have in the back of my head a question about Sam Darnold. I just can't get last year's exit from the playoffs out of my mind about Sam Darnold. So while they are looking like world beaters right now, I'm not ready to commit to Seattle, but I do have them at number 2 as they are also 7-2, followed by the Los Angeles Rams, who are 6-3, and they did a number on the 49ers. I mean, they did a number. I mean, the final score really doesn't reflect how badly they beat the 49ers down. They're at 7-2, and they look really good. But there are times when they don't look so good. And if Puka Nacua is not healthy, they're probably not going to win. They have to have Puka Nacua on the field. Matt Stafford playing like an MVP. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. They've got pieces. Sean McVay, an excellent coach, and they're third on my list. The 49ers at number 4, they're sitting at 6-3 and looking. They're one of the better teams in the NFC, but they don't have their starting quarterback in Brock Purdy, and you just kind of wonder about them. But they're good enough to be in the top 5. And then I got Detroit, who I thought would be up there with the Eagles at 1-2. And they've had an interesting year, losing to the Vikings, losing to the Packers. They've had some games where they've been pimp slapped around. And you just kind of go, man, what's going on with Dan Campbell and his bunch? They're still good. I mean, they're sitting there at 6-4, I want to say. No, they're actually 6-3, and they lead the NFC North. And then, believe it or not, followed by the Bears, who are sitting there at 6-3. But I will not dare put the Chicago Bears on this list. That's a team. I don't even know why I mentioned them. I guess because they're both in the NFC North, the Lions and Bears. They're having a good year. I don't want to take anything away from Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams. They're 6-3. I do not believe in them at all. We got a lot of football left, and they ain't on this list. Now let's look at the NFC top 10 list, which is, I think, very interesting. And it goes back to the argument that I've been trying to establish, that who's really the big dog in the NFL right now? Who's the big dog? So let's start out with the Philadelphia Eagles, defending Super Bowl champions at 7-2. You got to put them at number 1. They deserve that, but they just something about them. They proved fallible this year, and they barely beat the Packers at Lambeau. But they're 7-2, followed by the Seahawks at number 2, the Rams at number 3. And then I have the Patriots at 4. I'm not so sure as we sit here in this moment that the Patriots could handle Seattle, the Rams, and the Eagles. Maybe not. Actually, they could, but it's something about the eye test. I'm putting them at 4, followed by the 49ers, the Broncos, the Lions, the Bills, and then the LA Chargers, followed by I got the Bills twice. I don't know what I'm thinking about. Probably because that's how confusing the Bills are. But that being said, I got to get them off. I'm definitely not going to put the Bears up there. But anyway, that's basically an idea of how the top 10 looks this year. I think, I wanted to put, that's the team I forgot. The Green Bay Packers should be at 10. I mean, sitting there at 5-3-1, they would be a team that I would say has to get honorable mention. They're loaded. Green, and I guess I'm being biased because I'm a Green Bay fan, but they are loaded, and they have an outstanding defense, much like the Denver Broncos. And they're sitting at 5-3-1. And you scratch your head like, how did they end up at 5-3-1? How in the world did the Green Bay Packers open the season blitzing the Lions, followed by the Commanders, who were pretty good before they had all that rash of injuries? I think they incurred a lot of the injuries in that Packer game. And then they come and lose the Browns, tie the Cowboys, who are woeful, and they lose the Carolina Panthers. And then they lost to the Philadelphia, which is an understandable loss. And then you just kind of scratch your head. Well, you kind of struggled with the Cardinals. You really kind of barely won that game. And then the Bengals are the Bengals, and they kind of put a little pressure on you at Lambeau, but you won it. So anyway, they round out my top 10. They're not who we thought they were up to this point. There's a lot of football left to be played, and it's going to be fun, believe it or not. Out of all of the negative things that I've said, it's actually going to be a lot of fun. And as I say, by the way, the Maurice Brown Show NFL edition is brought to you by MAGNOS Dentistry out of Belo Horizonte, Brazil. Americans travel to Brazil often for dental work to save on healthcare. And if you'd like a trip to be facilitated for you, contact the Maurice Brown Show by going to mauricebrowncomedyhour@gmail.com. So, with that being said, let's look at the Week 10 matchups that we've got coming up, which are going to be, this is going to be an interesting week in football. Thursday night, we've got the Jets and the Patriots. Now, you look at the New York Jets, I think they're on a little 2-game winning streak. Wouldn't be surprised at all if they went to New England and won. But I'm not picking them. I'm going to pick the Patriots. But it's been that kind of year. The Jets, I really pull for Aaron Glenn and Justin Fields. I mean, I really hope they can get their act together over there because I think they have a lot of talent and a lot of potential to do a lot of good things. So that's going to be Thursday night at 8:15, and you can watch that on Prime Video. Now, on Sunday morning, what once looked to be a great little pairing between the Commanders and the Dolphins is now kind of like, this is going to be the final NFL game held abroad. This one at 9:30 Sunday morning in Madrid, Spain. The Commanders take on the Dolphins. You look at the Dolphins, man, they beat the Buffalo Bills. How in the world did the Miami Dolphins beat the Buffalo Bills? It's been one of those years because I can tell you right now, Miami's still Miami, and the Commanders are hurting bad. Jaden Daniels is out probably for the next 3 weeks. At least he's coming back. It was once believed that he was out for the year, but he's expected to be back this year. Just don't know when. So until then, it's going to be Marcus Mariota. They can't win with Marcus Mariota. They just can't. Can they beat the Dolphins with Marcus Mariota? Yes, they can. Will they? I don't know. I don't have any kind of vibe on a lot of these games anymore. I think the Commanders should be able to win with Marcus Mariota. Who do they have after him? I think Sam Howell. So it goes from bad to worse. So, but the Dolphins have been playing horrible football this year. So that's going to be once again in Madrid, Spain on Sunday morning at 9:30. The last international game this year held by the NFL. And they've had a bunch of games abroad. I had a couple in London. I want to say they had one in Germany. And so anyway, I'm tired of these international games. You have to get up too early to watch them, and it just kind of throws everything off. Anyway, that being said, let's look at Sunday's 1 p.m. Week 10 matchups. We've got the Carolina Panthers taking on the Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons are one of the weirdest teams in the league this year. 1 week, they look like they can beat anyone. The next week, they can't get out of the way of their own selves. So I don't know what to think about Atlanta. Is it going to be Kirk Cousins? Is it going to be Michael Penix Jr.? I don't know. Maybe Harry Connick Jr. I don't know what to think about the Falcons. It's not been a good year for Raheem Morris and the Falcons. You got a dog like Bijan Robinson, and you can't figure out to win. When you have a running back like Bijan Robinson, you ride him. But they're not doing that, and they've been up and down. And Carolina's been up and down. You don't know what you're going to get out of them. So this is a game of futility, really. And that's going to be at 1 o'clock on Sunday. Now, one of the better games of the Sunday Week 10 matchups will be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Buffalo Bills. This one is going to be a very good watch. It's going to be in Buffalo. The Bills have got to be – Sean McDermott and the Bills now have got to really, be doing some soul searching because we know they're really good. We know they're really – there's no doubt about that. There are games where they just don't show up. Disrespecting their opponent, I think, is Buffalo's problem. They look on the schedule and go, we got this one. They're looking at the game following that they're focused on that game instead of the team they actually have to play, and they lose or struggle. And I mean, how do you beat the Kansas City Chiefs and then come back and lose to the Dolphins? But that's what we've got. They're good. The Bills are a good team. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who lost to the Patriots in Tampa, they're good. Both teams trying to really right their ships, if you will. That's going to be at 1 o'clock in Buffalo on Sunday. Also, the Houston Texans taking on the Tennessee Titans at 1 o'clock in Houston. You look at the Texans and you go, what happened to DeMeco Ryans and the Texans? What happened to CJ Stroud? You know, when you think about the Houston Texans, you're supposed to think about football, but still you think about drilling oil. You know, think about the Texans. I mean, they're bad. It's been another bad year, and I fear if they don't at least get a winning record, DeMeco Ryans may be fired. I don't want to see that happen to him, but wow, they have fallen off, and I don't know what's wrong with the team. Was it a sophomore jinx that CJ had last year? No, the sophomore jinx is continuing, and they're just not firing on all cylinders. Then you got poor Cam Ward, who's on the worst team officially in the NFL, the Tennessee Titans, and he's trying to figure out how to be an NFL quarterback. I think he'll be fine, but that's at 1 o'clock in Tennessee on Sunday. The Bears and the Vikings. So we get a redo of J.J. McCarthy and Caleb Williams. You remember earlier in the year, J.J. McCarthy actually led the Vikings over the Bears after they were losing by a couple of touchdowns. And Caleb Williams had egg dripping off of his face. Now Caleb is at 6-3, leading Chicago into Minnesota. And I don't believe in J.J. McCarthy at all. I think he's just a decent quarterback at best because the Vikings have a ton of talent. And I don't know that JJ's the guy. Can he beat the Bears? Yeah, he can beat the Bears because it's just been one of those kind of years. I think they're about the same level. Should be a good game, though. Sunday at 1 o'clock in Minnesota. Green Bay travels to the Meadowlands to play the New York Giants. As a Packer fan, I'm nervous again. The only good thing about it is they're starting Jameis Winston, who will throw 5 touchdowns in the first half and 10 interceptions in the second half. I like that. But the reality is he can get hot and he can torch you. You know, Jameis Winston has games where he's clean or clean enough to win. And the Packers, I don't know what to think. Matt LaFleur, I think you're on the clock, dude. Also, on Sunday at 1 o'clock in Pittsburgh, the Cincinnati Bengals travel to play the Steel City. This should be a game that the Steelers win because let's face it, the Bengals can't stop a nosebleed. 1 o'clock on Sunday, the Jacksonville Jaguars host the LA Chargers. Another disappointing year. We thought Trevor Lawrence was going to be a transgenerational player. We thought Trevor Lawrence was going to be Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers or Peyton Manning, you know, one of those great. We thought that. He's not been that. And they're up and down. And earlier in the year, about 3 weeks ago, maybe 4, the Jaguars had us all believing that they were one of those teams to beat. Not anymore. They cannot play a clean game, it seems, to save their lives. The Jacksonville Jaguars are 5-4. They had I think it was the Texans beat like 29-10, and they lost 30-29. And I'm going, yeah, those are the Jags. And as I say that, the Chargers could go down there and lose the ball game. This is an any given Sunday kind of year. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, you're watching the Maurice Brown Show NFL edition, brought to you by MAGNOS Dentistry out of Belo Horizonte, Brazil. And Americans travel to Brazil often for their dental needs to save on healthcare. If you'd like a trip facilitated for you, contact Maurice Brown Comedy Hour at gmail.com. Also, we are on kchftv.org in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So Let's take a look at some more of these games that we've got this Sunday. And there are some games in the latter half of the day that are going to be pretty good. One of which we've got the Seahawks and the Rams hooking up in Los Angeles. And I'll go this far and say this may be the game of the week. Both riding high. The Rams are 6-3. The Seahawks are 7-2. This is going to be an AFC West. I checked that. I'm sorry. They're both 7-2. The Rams are 7-2, and the Seahawks are 7-2. And this is going to be an NFC West showdown that is going to be very much like the showdown between the Rams and the 49ers last week, although it didn't live up to the slugfest we thought we'd see. The Rams blew them out. I don't think they're going to blow the Seahawks out. I think this is one of those games that Sam Darnold is going to do what he's been doing all year, and I think the Rams are going to implode, particularly if Puka Nacua is not healthy, which I think he is. But even if he is, I could see the Seahawks winning the game. I think it'll be very good. It'll be worth the watch, high scoring. But I'm just going to, something tells me it's going to be a Seahawk win. The 49ers and the Cardinals also hook up in Arizona. The Cardinals are done. And I don't know who the head coach is for the Cardinals. I should know. But he probably should be terminated today, if not sooner. Whenever you make the statement that you do about your franchise quarterback, Kyler Murray, you paid this man a lot of money, and say, I don't think I'm going to play him the rest of the year for Jacoby Brissett, who has done nothing but back starters up for 9-10 years in the NFL. Has a couple of good games. You go, yeah, I think I like Jacoby Brissett. No. You're paying Kyler Murray a lot of money. Who's better than Jacoby Brissett? As much as you don't want to give him credit for being better because he's a little dude, he's better. And anyway, they're going the wrong direction. And the Cardinals have been in some games this year that they've lost that they very well could have won. Poor coaching. It's just poor. They've got the talent. And I think they have just about put up the white flag. If you look at the way the Cardinals played last week, okay, they were blitzed. They didn't have a chance. The Seahawks destroyed them. And I think that's exactly what the 49ers are going to do. And that's going to be Sunday at 4:05. That's going to be in Arizona. We'll see what happens with that, but it's going to be exciting. But again, the game to watch is going to be the Seahawks and the Rams. Again, that may be the game of the week. And at 4:25, we've got the Ravens and the Browns. This should be another win for the Ravens as they're trying to get back in the playoff hunt. Go ahead and give Baltimore the W here because we're talking. And by the way, why are the Cleveland Browns not starting at this point Shedeur Sanders? I should have heard at some point this week, if not the week prior, Kevin Stefanski come out and say, we're starting Shedeur Sanders Sunday. What are we waiting for? Have we not seen enough of Dylan Gabriel? And nothing against Dylan Gabriel. He's a fine young quarterback who's got a lot of growing to do. I don't think he's as good as Shedeur Sanders. But you're never going to find that out if you don't put him on the field. What are they doing? I just want to know, if you can help me out, please. What are they doing with Shedeur Sanders? Because my thing is, if you don't intend to play him, why did you draft him? This is the most disrespectful display of treatment of a quarterback I think that I've ever seen, outside of Charlie Ward, who won the national championship for Florida State and not getting drafted by a single NFL team. Okay. I'm miffed. Now, another game of the week, the Kansas City Chiefs at 4:25 in Denver, KC and the Broncos. We're going to really find out a lot about the Denver Broncos in this game and Bo Nix. Because although the Chiefs are like a middling 5-4. They're still the Kansas City Chiefs. They still have the best quarterback in the NFL in Patrick Mahomes. This is going to be a good watch. 4:25 on Sunday in Denver at Mile High. It's going to be the Chiefs, the Broncos. So, and we're all just kind of waiting for the Chiefs to kind of be that team that we thought they were in the beginning of the year. Same for the Buffalo Bills. Same for the Baltimore Ravens. We're just going to have to stand by and see what happens. And then on Sunday night, another game of the week. This is a great matchup in Philadelphia. The Eagles host the Detroit Lions. And that is going to be at 8:20 p.m. In Detroit. It's going to be a good one. I'm sorry, in Philadelphia. I'm sorry. At Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia. Going to be a great matchup. The Eagles, I don't know what's going on with Philadelphia. They haven't really looked that great. The Lions up and down. Going to be a great matchup. Two teams who could very well go to the Super Bowl. Definitely not counting either one of them out. 8:20 NBC Peacock Sunday Night Football. The Detroit Lions take on the Philadelphia Eagles. And you look at the Eagles, I think, and I said this last week and a couple of weeks prior, actually. Yeah, and it's just my gut feeling. The problem with the Eagles is the relationship between A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts. I don't know what's going on with those two, but they can't seem to get right. And we remember what happened to the Eagles 2, maybe 3 years ago when they were 10-1 and they proceeded to lose the rest of their games because something was going on in that locker room. And it's between A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts. And what has happened is half the team is sided with A.J. and the other half with Jalen. And somewhere in the middle of all of that is Nick Sirianni. Then you go out and get Saquon Barkley, and all is right in the world again. You've got the best running back in the NFL. You've taken a lot of pressure off Jalen. Just give it to Saquon. And they won the Super Bowl. This year, they're not even really giving the ball to Saquon that much. But they're also not really throwing the ball to A.J. Brown. Still, they never really were. And now I think a disconnect has occurred again. And I don't think Saquon Barkley can mend the two, the relationship between them. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Philadelphia. They haven't really looked that good. And then on Monday night, someone passed me my pillow. And I'd like to have a glass of warm milk with that because I'm going to sleep. The Dallas Cowboys and the LA Raiders on Monday night. Can somebody just reschedule? When does the flex scheduling start? This is terrible. There's really nothing to say here. 8:15 Monday night, the Cowboys and the Raiders. I will say this about Dallas. You look at the Dallas Cowboys, and they've got a really good offense. And I feel bad for Dak Prescott. Because if you really look at the Cowboys right now, if they had an average defense, they'd be 7-2 right now. And one of those wins that they didn't get was against the Philadelphia Eagles to start the season off. They lost 24-20. We're in that game, but they can't stop a nosebleed. And so what do you get? A putrid ball club. And, it is what it is. And then last week, I think they got blown out whenever everybody thought they were going to give the Denver Broncos a game, and they didn't. And they just don't know what they're doing. And, oh, by the way, as a Packer fan, Jerry, I want to thank you for Micah Parsons. And then you look at the Raiders. And, oh, by the way, we could use your kicker too, Jerry. If you could make that happen, I'd appreciate it. Anyway, that being said, looking at the Raiders and what happened to them, we all thought that Pete Carroll and Geno Smith and Brock Bowers and Max Crosby and, the Raiders, man, they got it going on. This is going to be a great year. Not. The Raiders are terrible. And Geno Smith is mostly the reason why. But then who are your alternatives? They didn't really have any. And I think that Pete Carroll's philosophy on defense is outdated. This is not the Legion of Boom. And Russell Wilson isn't out there. That's Geno Smith. This is not Russell Wilson in his prime. It's Geno Smith. So it's just not working for the Raiders, and it's too bad. That's going to be 8:15 the Cowboys and the Raiders on Monday Night Football. But we've got about 4 or 5 quality matchups on Sunday. And it should be a lot of fun. This week 10 coming up. I think when you look at the who do I want to say here? The Bucks and the Bills, Buffalo and Tampa Bay. That's going to be a quality matchup. No question about that. I think also the Rams and Seahawks, also a quality matchup. Sunday Night Football has the Eagles and the Lions, which is a quality matchup. I definitely think that's one that you're going to want to see. And then kind of off radar, kind of sneaky, interesting, the Bears and the Vikings are going to be playing on at 4:25 at 1 o'clock on Sunday. So that is a wrap. That is the Maurice Brown Show NFL edition. As we've taken a look at week 10, we didn't have hip hop artist Antoine, real Stewart on the show today. And he'll be back next week. And we didn't have Aaron Too Tall Moore, former college football standout. Aaron Moore could not make it on the show this week. So maybe next week we'll have him. You've been watching the Maurice Brown Show, brought to you by MAGNOS Dentistry out of Belo Horizonte, Brazil, in the beautiful state of Minas Gerais. Americans travel to Brazil for dental care to save on health care costs. If you want to take a trip down there, you'd like to have a trip facilitated for you, contact Maurice Brown Comedy Hour at gmail.com. And also, you're watching kchftv.org out of Albuquerque, New Mexico, every Sunday night at 9 p.m. Mountain Time. We are seen here. And also, you can listen to us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Pocket Cast, and also you can listen to the Maurice Brown Show. You can watch the Maurice Brown Show on replay on the Maurice Brown Comedy channel on YouTube. So with that, guys, we are going to get out of here on that. I appreciate you hanging out with us, and may the peace of our great Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, be with you and your families, guys. God bless you.